What? I am going into work, my man. Why are you trying to pull me over as I'm going into work?
Because you're going 80 and a 45.
I am going into work.
Do you remember when the Orlando police officer got caught speeding in a residential neighborhood? Then when another police officer went to pull him over, he ran.
Over 100 miles an hour trying to catch up with this butthead. Pull over. You going to pull over?
What? I am going into work, my man.
My name is Deputy Hilton, and I see your driver's license.
No.
Orlando PD taking off from a traffic stop.
He ended up with several criminal charges, including a felony.
State Attorney Phil Archer officially filed 2 charges, including felony, fleeing, and eluding.
And last we heard, he was fired as a police officer.
The Orlando Police Department told News 6 Officer Shoney had been relieved of his duties.
But look what happens after things quiet down and the media goes on to something else and people forget about it.
For an Orlando police officer will have his record expunged after prosecutors dropped the charges against him related to what would become this traffic stop here in his police cruiser. Orlando police told me today that Officer Shawnee is back on duty working the evening shift.
Let me get this straight. So the criminal charges went away. In fact, he got his record expunged and quietly he gets his job back and he's already been working as a police officer for like a year. You didn't know about that, did you?
Pepperidge Farm remembers, but Pepperidge Farm ain't just going to keep it to Pepperidge Farm self free of charge. Maybe you go out and buy yourself some of these distinctive Milano cookies. Maybe this whole thing just disappears.
On June 6, 2023, Deputy Kirby with the Seminole County Sheriff's Department was on routine patrol when he observed a Ford Explorer that looked a lot like a police car traveling west at a high rate of speed. His radar indicated that speed to be 80 miles per hour in a posted 45 mile per hour residential zone. It was obvious to Deputy Kirby that police car was speeding out of its jurisdiction with no emergency lights on and endangering the public. The deputy turns his vehicle around, he turns on his emergency lights and his siren, and he begins to try to catch up to the speeding police car. His dash cam recorded the fact that he said he had to get up to 100 miles per hour just to catch up to him.
Over 100 miles an hour trying to catch up with this butthead.
But when he does catch up to him, even though he has his emergency lights on and his siren blaring, the car does not stop.
Pull over.
Eventually, he pulls up alongside it, he rolls down his passenger side window, and he asks, "Are you going to pull over?"
You going to pull over?
Deputy Kirby wrote in his report, "I exited my vehicle to make contact with the driver. The driver exited his vehicle, and I asked him where he was going so fast, and he said work. I asked him what type of call he was responding to, and he replied, 'Look how I am dressed. What do you think?'"
What? I am going into work, my man. Why are you trying to pull me over as I'm going into work?
Because you're going 80 and a 45.
I am going into work.
Okay, what are you going to work for?
What does it look like I am dressed for?
What
does it look like I am dressed for?
And when he asked for his driver's license, he refused.
My name is Deputy Hilton, and I see your driver's license.
No.
Okay. 3113, copy at 1050.
The deputy was able to later identify the driver of the marked Orlando police vehicle to be Alexander Shoney, but he had to use the driver and vehicle information database in order to find that out.
10-4, I got a city Orlando PD taking off from a traffic stop. It's going to be X-ray Foxtrot 6207, XF 6207. He refused to stop.
The deputy noted in his report that the driver violated several laws, including fleeing, reckless driving, and failing to identify himself at a traffic stop. This occurred in Seminole County, Florida. Bond was set at $9,000. When the footage was first released showing Shoney, this 25-year-old police officer, acting in the way that he did, he was quickly thrown under the bus. He was hit with both misdemeanor and felony charges, and he was completely relieved of duty.
Tonight, an Orlando police officer who sped through a neighborhood, then left in the middle of a traffic stop, is facing charges.
If convicted, he could be sentenced to 6 years in prison.
Court documents say the 25-year-old passed a Seminole County deputy at about 80 miles an hour in a 45. Several days later, the Orlando Police Department told News 6 Officer Shoney had been relieved of his duties, pending both a Seminole County investigation and an internal Orlando police investigation. Court documents show on Wednesday, State Attorney Phil Archer officially filed 2 charges, including felony fleeing and eluding.
But then once it faded from the media limelight, a little bit of time went by. Was he given special treatment? He got the best deal that any criminal defendant can ever get, just short of all the charges being dismissed. He got a diversion agreement, which means after a certain period of time, it completely goes away, dismissed. That then enables you to get an expungement, to wipe it off your record like it never even happened.
For an Orlando police officer will have his record expunged after prosecutors dropped the charges against him related to what would become this traffic stop here in his police cruiser. Shawnee was charged with 3rd-degree felonies of fleeing and eluding law enforcement and misdemeanors of resisting an officer without violence and reckless driving. But his attorney fought the case and got him admitted into a pretrial diversion program, which he completed in December. So in exchange, prosecutors have now dropped the charges related to this incident. And now the process has started to have the case expunged from his record.
Oh, by the way, I got the Seminole County deputy's name wrong. It's not, Kirby wasn't his last name. His name was Deputy Kirby Hilton. And he needs to be commended as one of the good guys out there who did the right thing. I would not be surprised at all if he has been punished from the inside for doing the right thing. I've seen it before around the country. Once an officer does the right thing, they're then labeled basically like the law enforcement version of a snitch. And it's only a matter of time before they get thrown under the bus. So if there's any evidence that that has occurred here or is occurring, please somebody reach out. While many of you probably remember this initial story, how many of you ever heard how this ended? I know I didn't until today.
Orlando police told me today that Officer Shawnee is back on duty working the evening shift in the North Patrol Division. Again, that investigation still ongoing. His attorney told me today that his client is not receiving special treatment. The court did the right thing, he says, because he had no prior criminal history.
But don't worry, even though he got a sweetheart deal from these prosecutors who initially told the media that he had committed these serious crimes and that they were going to hold him accountable, don't worry, the law enforcement agencies themselves are conducting their own investigation.
But now he could face trouble with the department as the agency works to determine if what happened during this stop violated any policies or procedures.
And here the scam is revealed for you to see. What they do is they hold their internal investigations open pending the resolution of the criminal charges, the criminal case. This happens all over the country. Their buddy prosecutors, who they work with on a day-to-day basis, their colleagues, will give the cops who get charged a sweetheart deal such as this diversion agreement. And then once the charges are dismissed, guess what? That also resolves the pending internal case. That also resolves the disciplinary case. Then the resolution is this: all criminal charges were dismissed and actually it was expunged. So I guess case closed. But wait, isn't there a difference between a prosecutor establishing guilt beyond any reasonable doubt and a law enforcement agency reviewing something that happened to see if any of their policies or procedures were violated? Such as not committing felonies, such as not driving 80 plus miles per hour in a 40, 45 mile per hour residential zone, and then leading law enforcement officers on a pursuit and refusing to identify yourself to a law enforcement officer. Surely none of that can violate policies and procedures. Soon as the sweetheart deal takes place, we'll just copy and paste that the criminal charges have been resolved in the officer's favor. We'll put that at the end of the report as the conclusion of the report, and he can go back to work by Monday. And don't worry, we won't issue any press releases about it. We won't tell our buddies in the media. I guess the one good thing about it for the people of Orlando, and I lived there for 4 years, they probably told the guy to keep a low profile, and apparently he has done so. I haven't seen where he's popped up anywhere else. But if you know of something, if this guy has pulled you over, you've had encounters with him, he's bothered you in some way, reach out. I'd love to know about it. So as you see, the media doesn't always follow through, but I'll do my best to follow through. If you like to stay on top of these sorts of things, the government using double standards, circling the wagons for police officers while spitting on the rights of civilians, please follow me. Subscribe both here and at the blog at thecivilrightslawyer.com. You can follow me on Twitter at JohnBryanESQ. Remember, our rights don't end where your fear begins. Freedom is scary. Deal with it.